In my book, Understanding Children and Teens, a practical guide for parents, teachers, and coaches, I talk in each chapter really about different aspects of the work that I do with children and teens. And chapter 5 talks about the healing power of art. And this is something that I've really developed a lot more in the last few months, actually. I've always been very creative, and if you follow me on Facebook, on my uh, private Facebook, as opposed to the business pages, I talk about it there quite a bit. And I have actually just now started a page specifically for the art called Judy B Art. So you'll find examples of my work there. I'm reluctant to share the work of others, of clients, because it's really essentially quite private. It's an expression of their feelings, and I don't think they would be very comfortable about the idea of me sharing that in a public space. So you'll have to just put up with my work, I'm afraid. But I'd like to just read to you from the chapter in the Understanding Children's and Teens book. Many of you will have this book, I'm sure, and certainly my students use it. And it's quite an important part of the work that we do, the training course. So I use a lot of art in my work. Children love to draw and paint and express themselves through their creativity. It's not a new idea. Indeed, they were using art to gain insight into the child's deeper world as far back as the 1940s. And no, I am not that old, but as a qualitative market researcher, I was trained by Bill Schlackman, who was a motivational psychologist who came over from the US and was employed by a lot of the ad agencies to understand at a deeper level how people connect to the advertising medium. And I was working with in the Schlackman organization as a qualitative researcher. And I had a number of ad agency accounts that I was responsible for. And one of them was the Kellogg's account. And I started really doing market research with children and families really from the get go. And I've worked with children really ever since. So, I mean, at that stage, I didn't have children. And Bill Schlackman was very much about finding playful ways to connect with those that we wanted to hear from. And some of those playful ways might have been thematic apperception tests, where we might draw a cartoon and then a sort of speech bubble and ask the child or the mum or dad to write in the speech bubble what they thought that person was thinking. We also did psychodrama, where we acted out things where children would make up their own commercials for the cereal we were talking about. And even ends with some companies that I work with create products. I certainly worked with companies like Little Tikes, and I worked with Mattel and Hasbro and various children's companies, really finding out from children what they wanted. Now, children can't describe what they want in a way that a client can sort of say, right, okay, fine, what that means is we need to do this, that, and the other. They describe it in their own way, and it's often easier for them to draw pictures or to create vision boards. Or to find some way to describe what they want. I might say we might set up a number of, for example, different playhouses out in the garden, and children would go around each of them and say, well, I would have this like this, and this should be like this. And I get them to pretend that they were like a designer or somebody like that. Or like in Strictly Come Dancing, give them marks out of 10 and review them. So when you're doing market research, you have to really find ways to connect with children in a way that they find easy and playful, that they want to do, and that we can learn from, interpret, and then make recommendations to the client. Now, that's not hugely different, to what I do as a therapist. I'm finding playful ways to understand what's going on in the child's mind, so that I can see the patterns, I can see understand the processes, and figure out what might be helpful, and also to find the processes and thinking that works for them. It's all very well finding out what doesn't work, but actually the answer for the child is often in finding what does work and then being able to transfer it across. So I was doing this back in my early career for it at a commercial, from a commercial point of view. But of course, after a while of that, and I spoke all over the world at conferences about this, because it was an area of expertise that I had that other research companies didn't have. It was probably helped too by the fact that, I also had children. So I had an insight from that point of view too. But mostly it was because I connected really well with children in a way that made them feel that they were heard and valued, and that what they had to say was totally accepted without judgment. And so this is what I now do more of. I'd like to quote from Kathy A. Malchiodi, who is very much the sort of guru in the whole area of art therapy. She says in her book, Understanding Children's Drawings, the overall consensus is that art expressions are uniquely personal statements that have elements of both conscious and unconscious meaning in them, and can be representative of many different aspects of the children who create them. Now, the thing about a child's drawing is it is just a drawing. When I say it's just a drawing, I'm not asking them to draw an accurate representation of a tree or a house, or a situation at school or whatever. What I'm doing is asking them to feel into, lean into, tune into what happened at school, or what happened in an argument with somebody, mummy or daddy, or what happened when the teacher told them off. And to find that feeling within them, which is really very much in their subconscious mind. It might start as a thought, and then that thought becomes a feeling. It might be a feeling of sadness, and then that might change and become a feeling of anger and of injustice and frustration, unfairness. And rather than ask them to explain more about that, to paint or draw that feeling. For them, they're just doing some drawing. They do it all the time. They're forever, getting stuck into paints and crayons and pens and all the rest. It's very much their world, isn't it? Cutting and sticking, drawing, creating. And they find it very refreshing. I mean, imagine a child has got a real issue with anxiety, with panic attacks, not able to go to school, around friendship or exam pressure or whatever it might be. And mum suggests going to see somebody, and they're perhaps fearing, oh my goodness, I'm going to be asked why, I'm going to be asked lots of difficult questions, it'll be like school and I won't be able to do it, etc., etc. I mean, part of that is actually managed by me having a quick WhatsApp video call with them once mum has agreed that has decided that she would like them to come and see me. So they do sort of get to have a little chat, just a quick hello, and they can see what I'm like, and I can sort of show them around the therapy room, which is basically just a room in my house. It's not like a clinic or anything like that. And big window onto the garden, and they can see the hens and things. So it's quite relaxing. But then imagine they come in and they're seeing paints and crayons and oil pastels and paper, and lots of stuff like that, Lego, Play-Doh, and so on. It's immediately relaxing. It's immediately, oh, I can do that. And some mums say, oh, if they've got a 16-year-old, 15, 16, 17, oh, oh, it's a bit babyish, isn't it, for my child? They love it because it's like, oh, right, I know where I am. I know what I can, paint. Yeah, I can do that. So immediately they're relaxed. And when you have your head down, I always do my own art at the same time, because I don't want to sit there looking at them doing theirs. It's just a bit odd, isn't it? So I have my art out. I might be working on something, or I might just be starting something new, might be just poodling about with some pushing paint around on a piece of paper or whatever. And as we've got our heads down, sharing the same palette, mixing our paints, washing our brushes, trying to avoid washing them in our drinking water, it's very companionable. I put some gentle music on and ask them to focus on whatever it is that's upsetting them. I've been working quite a lot with a client at the moment on their grief. I've been working with another on anxiety, and another on feelings about changing, moving to secondary school. So it's very easy in that sort of way to just, you haven't got direct eye contact. You're both looking at what you're doing, maybe commenting on it. Oh, how did you get that color? Or, oh, yeah, I think I might do this. But it's not about the artistic merits of it. I really must emphasize it's really about expression. And it's very easy then, or it appears to me to be easy, and they certainly say to their mums when they go home that they've really found it very helpful to release those feelings, especially anger. I get a lot of mums saying, well, want some help with anger. Not them, their child, although maybe both. And you can express anger onto the page. I mean, just imagine being let loose with some red and some black and some whack that color on and all the rest of it. And then what we can do is we do some tapping. So I get them to, we do some EFT tapping. We tap on the sort of the colors, we breathe, we release. It's very healing. And then they bring in a healing color that they can apply over that. And we then imprint that in very much the same way as we would do in an EFT tapping session. Children can't easily articulate their emotions. They're very worried about, getting the right word. They don't know what the right word is. There's a lot of overwhelm. They'd be concerned about sort of maybe using the wrong word. But actually, with the art, I don't need to know, do I? I'm not having to write a report on, well, what they said was this. My job is as a healer, which means that I am helping them by finding a good way that they can express how they feel. By good, I mean a way that's easy for them to express how they feel. And then I can help them to heal that. I might not know what's going on in their minds. I don't know what's going on in their mind. I can guess a bit. I'm a Reiki master, and I have a great understanding of working with crystals and with color, with chakras. So I can see by the nature of the painting what's going on, by the colors they've used. But that really isn't the point. The point is that we can work on that by tapping, and by them bringing in a healing color to help them to sort of basically to heal. So I've deviated hugely from chapter 5, but I'm sure you won't mind. There are various other ways that I use art. Collages. You've got a pile of magazines, and they can pull out pictures, words, things like that. We can go around the garden and sort of take leaves or flowers or bits and bobs from the garden, or go up to the woods and get things from there. I also we make vision boards. So, for example, if you have a child that's starting secondary school in September, or a child starting school, a 4 year old, or any sort of new thing like a new school or a new situation in life, they can make a vision board of how they want to feel. So it might be a confidence one, it might be about trust, happiness, or whatever. Again, I don't need to know what it is. They make a vision board that's going to help them, that they can then put up in their room. So vision boards are a great thing to do. Mood boards. What else do I do? We sort of there's art, there's Play-Doh. I also have some clay. We can do clay modeling. I used to have a kiln and a potter's wheel, but I don't anymore. But we can hand build. And in fact, I used to work in a school helping out with that, coming in and doing sort of clay modeling sessions, just creating with our hands something in clay that represents, us. And that was quite interesting too. So I think it's quite a relief to children to know that they don't have to talk about it, that they simply express it. Sometimes some of the expressions look strange, when mums pick up and they sort of look at it and they sort of expecting it to be like something that's come from the school where it looks like a thing, but obviously it isn't a thing, it's their feelings. So it's not an art lesson. I'm not an artist. I'm also not a qualified art therapist, although, as I've sort of demonstrated, really, I've been using art and creative methods for well over sort of 30 years in my work, initially, as I said, in market research. So, what am I looking at? And if you're somebody if you're a teacher or if you're a coach yourself, this might be helpful. When in your sort of not interpretation to them, but your interpretation for yourself to understand how to move them on, because these art therapy sessions are part and parcel of a number of other sessions. So it may be that the mum has booked 6 sessions. Well, we won't do art in every session. We might do it in maybe 2 or 3 or part of a session, but it's all helping to understand a bigger picture of, as I said, anxiety. It might be addiction, it might be eating disorder, it might be all sorts of things, friendship issues, and so on. So it is important that I, as a therapist, understand what's going on so that I know how to develop in the next session, where to move things forward. So what am I looking for? And I'm taking this list actually from a book called The Secret World of Drawings by Greg M. Firth. And it's a list that I use in my training, and it's a list that I use myself, obviously. So firstly, just use your intuition. What are your first impressions? And then look at the size of the drawing in relation to the size of the paper. Look at the feeling that's being conveyed. What's odd? Anything odd? Any barriers? Anything blocking? Anything missing? What's central? Any shape distortions? Any repeated objects? Look at perspective, shading, hedging, and so on. I mean, I went through that extremely fast, mainly, I suppose, because I sort of quite like if you do my training with me, but or read the book, which obviously has a lot more detail in it, and it's actually got some pictures as well. So I'm going to stop there because that's it's coming up to 20 minutes, and I know you're busy parents and probably have plenty of other things to do, but I hope that I've whet your appetite in terms of maybe thinking of how you could use art when you're doing art with your children as a way, instead of asking them, why a certain thing, get them to draw it, get them to draw their feelings and express their feelings. And you may well find that expression really calms them down and really helps. And you may be able to tell a little after a while of understanding